alligator. This is Carli Shannon, and I'm here to tell you about some animals often found in Louisiana. I will tell you about turtles, alligators, nutria, ducks, and egrets. We are here at UL right now to try and find the alligators, but we will go to Girard Park to find some of the other animals. Let's see what we can find. Alligators. We believe that the alligators are hibernating right now, so we don't think we can find any, but we will record their habitat. The most common type of alligator found in Louisiana is the American alligator. It was declared an endangered species in 1967. The American alligator has very tough skin, which is rough on the outside. You can tell an alligator from a crocodile pretty much by looking at its nose. An alligator's nose is a whole lot wider than that of a crocodile. A crocodile has a more slender nose. Alligators live in stationary or nearly stationary bodies of water, anywhere from entire swamps to ditches, in lakes, but more often in bayous and swamps. The alligator digs a den in the ground, which may be connected to a series of underground dens that particular alligator has. It can be used for a number of things, including a place to stay during the winter. During droughts, the den may be one of the only places in that area with water. Alligators eat nearly anything they can get their jaws on, while they don't chew their food. But it often depends on their size for what prey they go for. Something that I found very interesting about them is that when prey may be too large for them, like cattle, they will grab one of its legs and start spazzing out uncontrollably so it will scare the prey into shock, then it will rip off its leg so it can swallow it whole. Egrets. Egrets are very lucky to be here today because at one point they were almost hunted to extinction. Then the government put a ban on hunting any kind of egret, so now they live in almost every corner of the world. Egrets nest in many different places and are often seen here in Louisiana. There are many different kinds of egret too. The most common egret we see is the snowy egret, usually about 2 feet tall. But a very uncommon one is the reddish egret, slightly taller than the snowy. The reddish egret has 2 different colors. It can be white or blue with a red head. There is also another kind of egret, the cattle egret, which is slightly shorter than 2 feet. It is called the cattle egret because they often eat bugs disturbed by moving cattle. Here are the egret that we found. Here's an even better side of the egret. This is a snowy egret. It's about 2 feet tall. You can see his legs shaking, possibly digging for food. He's footing. I don't know which. Nutria. The nutria is part of the rodent family and looks a lot like a beaver. It has a long, scaly, rat-like tail and has large orange front teeth. It's pretty much reddish-brown in color with a few other colors here and there. They live in rivers, lakes, swamps, and other places like that. And we're at a lake right now. And they live well with both fresh and salt water. They don't burrow very much to make a home, but they do make some very shallow burrows, most commonly underneath tree roots. But for a home, instead they make a nest out of plants that live around the water, like sedge and reeds. Nutrias are usually very nice and calm around humans, and are relatively easy to have as a pet, at least as far as how tame they are goes. They eat mostly plants, ones that live both above and underneath the water, but around coastal areas they also eat shellfish. Baby nutras are usually born with all their fur already grown and their eyes are already open. They start eating regular plants like their parents the very day that they are born, and they grow extremely fast. Nutras in captivity live for about 12 years at the very most, but they probably don't live as long if they are in the wild. They are very common sight around most large lakes, rivers, and sometimes even coulees. Wow, check that out. He climbed up on the shore. And he's looking for food. You can see the different colors in his whiskers. That's the other coloration I was talking about. Here, they usually have white mouths and whiskers. Yeah, you can jump in the water. Ducks. Ducks are very popular in Louisiana. There are mass numbers of migratory waterfowl and migratory birds, including ducks in Louisiana, especially in the winter. Duck legs are usually towards the back and the toes are webbed to help swimming. Ducks keep their feathers water resistant by spreading out a special oil with their bills onto their feathers. In the winter, male ducks usually have brighter feather coloring like that because that's when they're most often trying to attract females. In the summer, their colors are not as bright and they do end up looking a bit more like females. Females mostly have their nests on the ground, but certain species make nests in trees and nesting boxes. The baby ducks can jump from these without getting hurt when they're old enough. How far a duck migrates varies with each different species of duck, but the one that flies the furthest is the blue-winged teal, not these. The most common duck you will find is the mallard, which you see here. The mallard is the ancestor of most ducks, and it feeds on plants on the surface or in the shallow bottom, shallow enough so they don't have to dive. Many other ducks will dive to the bottom of a lake to get food, and other ducks have bills designed especially for catching fish, but of course they have to swim to the bottom to get them. Some of the most common things ducks eat are algae, plants, seeds, insects, and fish. See his bill? It's for fishing food out of the water. this is a different kind of duck. She seems to be resting there. I just thought she was really pretty. Some of those are geese up there. They're not all ducks. Ducks are not very good walkers, but they're excellent swimmers, if you'll notice the webbed toes. This is definitely a duck. This looks cute. They have relatively small heads, which means they have relatively small brains. You can kind of see the water gliding off them. That's from the oil that was in their feathers. As you can see, these are duck prints. You don't really see the webbings, but you can see where their toes are. I think it's really cool. Must have been like raining here whenever they did that. Turtles. A turtle shell has two pieces to it, an upper shell, the carapace, and the lower shell, a plastron. The shell is actually a part of the turtle skeleton. The inside of the shell is connected to the turtle's backbones and ribs. In the northern hemisphere, most of the turtles can back their heads up into their shell because of their special bone structure. But in the southern hemisphere, the turtles have to fold their heads to one side to get them into the shell. In Louisiana, of course, the turtles can back their heads up into the shell. Most turtles will eat crawfish, but of course the crawfish supports a diverse host of birds, amphibians, reptiles, and mammals, including humans. Duh. Other foods include dead fish, algae, and general vegetation around the area in which they live. Many turtles live in or around freshwater lakes and slow-moving freshwater streams, but they sunbathe on fallen trees and sometimes on the banks of the stream or lake they live in. Credits. We would like to thank Carli, Shannon, myself, for being the voice of the video and writing it. My mom, Cindy Sarver, for being the camera lady, driving me places, and all around helping with the video making. My grandmother for letting us borrow her turtle, that you see here, because all the rest are hibernating right now. And last but not least, all of the animals for showing off and posing at the right moment and being the core of this video. We thank you.